Derek Gould reporting down in Jupiter, there's some Alex Reyes news, which is not exactly encouraging. It's, I would say, clearly discouraging. Alex Reyes is going through an extended review of his shoulder by doctors. Mosaic says that's to determine if he starts spring slightly delayed. More on that in a moment. But Reyes has not thrown, according to Derek Gould of the Post-Dispatch, at D Gould on Twitter, at D Gould. Reyes has not thrown off a mound this winter, so he's going to be behind in the camp in terms of bullpens and live BP when he's given the go-ahead after exam. So that's discouraging news because one way or the other, he would have he could be of tremendous value to the Cardinals, whatever role they decided in. Sometimes, Jim, if I may sound a tad morose for a moment, I guess sometimes I think, it's just not meant to be with Alex Reyes and the Cardinals. It's just been one thing after another. And, oh, by the way, it's because of, arm and other physical issues. It's not because of the man, the character, who he is. It has nothing to do with that. It's just like he just can't get that sustained pitching health. And the Cardinals and Mike Schilt really pushed him too much last summer. And people say, well, why? How do you know that? Well, because his statistics went into the toilet after the All-Star break. That's why. And it was just like, look, he's out of gas. He's just fried for the season. And he never really, here and there he would bounce back, but it sort of became a pattern. He was just not the same guy. And I still believe, and they're never going to say this, I still believe that was a factor in the decision to change managers. Because I think the Cardinals upstairs had some ideas about what you can and can't do with Reyes because of his injury history. And no one's going to come forward and say it, but I can't help believe that it was somehow, that it wasn't factored in. And here we are. Now, am I overreacting? Okay. One of two things. This could be nothing because the Cardinals are downplaying it. Okay, so if you believe this could be nothing, and hey, the Cardinals are downplaying it, well, go ahead and say I'm overreacting. But I have unfortunately, I don't mean to laugh. Unfortunately, I have the history of hearing, probably about 100 times, we're confident he'll be throwing again as early as next week. It's just not a big deal. And I'm going to have to revise my scale, but the first time you hear that about a pitcher with some discomfort, it means that he's out at a minimum of at least 2 weeks, the first time you hear something like that. And then if an update you hear like, well, he had a little setback, but we looked at it, he got a scan, everything looks great, and then I'm like, he's out 3 months. I mean, seriously, it's just every single time or thereabouts. So you'll have to excuse me, seriously, if I'm being too pessimistic about this news. But shoulder and extended review and not throwing off a mound all winter, if that doesn't raise red flags, I don't know what the hell would raise red flags, right? And a guy with an injury history like that, too, it's just unfortunate.
He can't catch a break. You're right about the usage. And again, much like when we talked about Tatis earlier, because you had a lockout, there was no way to know what anybody was doing, right? No, we can't talk to anybody. Can't have a discussion. They might have known this earlier if they didn't have a lockout, but that's so...
That's a good point, man.
It's the same thing. We probably would have known by now all of this information about Reyes. He would have told you, hey, I'm having discomfort throwing off playing catch. He would have known that back in, January, whatever, when he was trying to ramp it back up. It's just really frustrating from that standpoint. And also, like you said, this sounds to me, Bernie, we had this discussion all last year. This sounds like Miles Michaelis's year last season. Oh, just give it another few days. Oh, it turned out to be middle of the year before you saw him. I don't know what the deal will be with Reyes, but it sounds eerily similar to me.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. they're going to have to. I'm talking about the Cardinals and John Mozeliak. They're going to have to forgive me for not taking their word on this. We've been down. As I have said a lot of times, I'm going to bore people that already know this because I'm going to say it again. I've taken that ride down Mulder Road too many times.
Yes, thank you. Good
when
reference.
Mark Mulder first broke down with the shoulder, not his fault. It happens. Walt Jocketty was one of my a guy that I truly am fond of just as a person and enjoyed working with him, even though we get into little arguments every now and then. But the first time, what became like a years-long odyssey, the first time that Mulder had shoulder discomfort, Walt said, "Hey, listen, we're just going to be careful here, and we fully expect he'll be back in a couple weeks. Everything will be fine." And he basically never pitched again. Now, don't get me wrong, he did make some starts, but he was done. There was just nothing left. The shoulder was too damaged. And so I kind of I spent 2-3 years going down Mulder Road with the Cardinals on this. And I'm like, I'm not going to go down Mulder Road anymore. It's just, it doesn't lead to, let's say, like, it doesn't lead to a beach town, like an oceanfront property. It owns in heartbreak, an wrecked career, So I'm not going to go down Mulder Road anymore.
Well, what's this pond with scum all over it? This isn't a beachfront property.
Mulder Road is a scary place. So I use that. I use that for every Cardinal pitcher when the Cardinals tell us, "Well, we're just trying to be conservative. We're trying to be cautious. We don't want to push anything. He'll be fine. What are you guys all worried about? He'll be fine." Okay, whatever you say, boss. Anyway. I don't mean to make light of it, but that's the point. I'm pointing out that I can't buy it. So hopefully this will be one of these times when it isn't a big deal. I really sincerely hope, because the Cardinals, again, they've been really really happy about picking some low hanging fruit for their bullpen, and maybe some of that'll work out fine. But I'm just saying it is low hanging fruit, and the Cardinals seem to think they have enough pitching. They seem to think that those of us who question that are kind of alarmists and nervous Nellies and chicken littles and all that. And all I need to say to that is simply 2021.
Yeah.
You told us you were all set last year with your pitching going into the year. What happened? So anyway, that's just a bummer to hear.
That's disappointing. But you know what we're going to start hearing now? Hey, Ryan Helsley's got an opportunity.
Yeah, well, hey,
right?
You're trying to trigger me, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to just go on it. We're going to hear that.
And, just to clarify, it isn't that I don't think Ryan Helsley can help the team, but I just can't stand the overhype.
Yes.
And just people that just are living in some kind of dreamscape land, and they don't actually look at his numbers. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm the crazy boy. Could be. Could be. But, hey, with the Reds trading off their team, the Cardinals can, we really like what we have in the bullpen. Okay, good luck. Everything will be fine. And NL Central stinks, so, they're probably right. They can probably snatch at the old wild card without major upgrades. But I am jumping ahead there. I need to back that up and wait and see what happens the rest of the spring.
We will, but it's part of the fun, right, Bernie?
It is.
We got the game back. We're going to have fun with it.
Yeah, and hit us up on the text line, too, if you want to do that, 855-282-8255, 855-282-8255. But to recap some baseball stuff, the Atlanta Braves acquired Matt Olson from Oakland, so that means bye-bye Freddie Freeman. And what's the market for Freeman? Well, the Yankees say they tell reporters they're pessimistic on their chances of signing Freeman, but the Yankees are the Yankees. And you can't exactly take their word for stuff either. Of course, if they want to upgrade their team, they want to go get somebody, they can do it. The Blue Jays have been interested in Freeman all winter. And John Morosi of MLB Network said that Freeman's signing with someone is imminent, but he also said, hey, the Dodgers have been making a strong push, so we'll see. But, of course, the Dodgers would sign him, right?
Yeah. Oh,
They're
all in on – they need good players. That's their motto. We got good players, we'll go get some. If one available, go get him.
The news of the day, of course, the Cincinnati Reds. First, they traded Sonny Gray, a key member of their rotation. They traded him to Minnesota yesterday. Then today, they traded their slugging outfielder, and he's a platoon bat, but still a great one. They traded Jesse Winker and their left side infielder, Eugenio Suarez, to the Mariners for 3 prospects, 2 of whom are pitching prospects. And they've announced that trade, so it is official. So, Ken Rosenthal also said that Cincinnati believes that Cincinnati's going to get an player to be named later, and they believe that Cincinnati is touting that as like, hey, we're pretty sure our choice is going to give us a really great player. Okay, we'll see. So they have now traded away their starting catcher, Tucker Barnhart. They to save money, they let Wade Miley become a free agent. He signed with the Cubs. Sonny Gray was traded to Twins. Now Winker and Suarez traded to Seattle. I don't know who's next. I'm sure teams will be calling them about Luis Castillo or Tyler Mahle. I don't know how low the Reds will want to go as far as their tanking, but they're definitely tanking. They asked the general manager last week, said, do you plans to have at least any discussions with Nick Castellanos and his agent, Scott Boras? And Nick Kroll, the general manager, said, no, we will not have any discussions with
oh, man.
So basically said, no, we're not even going to pick up the phone. So Nick Castellanos is gone, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but there's some big names there. So you can start to write these guys down for 90-plus losses, I think, right?
Yeah, it's hard to believe you're going to have 2 in the division where they'll compete for 90 losses, Pirates and the Reds. Ken Rosenthal put dollar figures on Miley, Gray, and Winker. Mm-hmm. They just subtracted $60 million off their payroll.
And I wonder, that's something. I wonder what Barnhart's making. He was in the arbitration leagues. I will find that. I mean, it's not a major amount, but yeah, that's a lot of payroll. I can't wait to read the Cincinnati Enquirer tomorrow morning.
Oh, my goodness, right?
Paul Doherty's going to be raising hell, man. The Rockies are aggressively pursuing Kris Bryant. Good for them.
I'm glad you brought that up because, Bernie, I saw some tweets that are like, oh, they're interested in him. There was a couple other guys, and I said they really looking for a middle-of-the-order bat. And, Bernie, I just was screaming, you had one. You traded him to St. Louis.
I don't know what the Bryant – I don't know what the Bryant market is, but I got to believe he would want to go to a place where he thought he would have a chance to win,
Yes.
And I don't know how he would feel with some of his back issues. If you – I remember having a conversation not only with Matt Holliday but with others because of Coors Field's kind of a – Coors Field is great for hitters. Coors Field is bad for hitters, both. Mm-hmm. Because these guys are always changing their swing when they leave Coors Field to go on the road. Then they come back and they got their Coors Field swing. And Coors Field gets hitters going crazy. They if anything, they're swinging too hard and they're flying. They're flying all over the place. And then they start to develop back problems. Plus, the games there are really long. They're on their feet a lot. Holliday said, he loved being in Colorado. He loved being a Rocky because, he did a lot of great things there. But it's just not an easy place to play. Does Kris Bryant want to get involved in all that? I guess it depends on who offers him, money. What other outfield, what other monies are out there? Fernando Tatis out up to 3 months with a fractured wrist. So there we go again with him and injuries. And it's going to require surgery, and it looks like they could go basically half the season without him. And he's one of the great young players in the sport. Slugged .611 last year with 42 home runs in 130 games, and that's with the shoulder.
Yes.
That in the view of some medical experts that saw the stuff, thought he should have had a shoulder surgery, but he declined to have that. And at least for now, the shoulder's not the issue, but now it's the wrist. It makes you wonder if the Padres will pursue Kris Bryant, not because he's a shortstop, but because they could move some pieces around. Speaking of shortstops, a lot, increasing speculation that Carlos Correa is going to go back to Houston. At least there's discussions to that effect as far as Correa and his agent and the Astros owner, Jim Crane. What other things have happened? We told you about the Matt Olson trade to the Braves. That's a big one. We told you about the offloading of more Red Stars, or at least good players. And those are kind of the big ones today.
Yeah,
right?
I got another texter asked, Bernie, how come Jorge Soler is never mentioned when the Cardinals talk about DH?
It's a good question. I think they would prefer a left-handed bat, number one. And the other thing about Soler, and boy, was he fantastic after he joined the Braves last year, but Soler's kind of been, well, let me take that back. My impression that he's been kind of up and down. Mm-hmm. And look, in the very little that he played in 2017, he was terrible his first year with the Royals. But he's been pretty good. 2018 he was really good. Not so much in 2020, but that's true of other players. He did not have good stats with the Royals last season before they traded him. And in fact, he was below average in terms of wins above replacement. And in 2020, he was about average. So he had been on the decline somewhat, but getting traded to Atlanta just kind of revived his bat, and he was phenomenal, obviously, in the postseason as well. But I don't know the specific answer. It could be that they're not interested because they see him as a guy that's kind of iffy. He could be going into decline. They'd rather have a left-handed bat. Maybe he's asking for too much money, and they'll take a look at him later. I don't know. It just requires me to guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of there. He was outstanding the second half with the Braves. I'll be honest with you, though. I know he's had some really good years, but until watching him do his thing in the playoffs, I always thought he was, I don't know. He never super impressed me, I guess is the best way to look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, he led the league in homers. I went, okay, so what? I just never thought of him as a difference-making ball player. But he came through for the Braves this year, so maybe I'm missing something.
The Brewers are in talks with free agent outfielder Andrew McCutchen, who needs no reintroduction. This is from Ken Rosenthal. Now, the Brewers have their outfielders. They have enough of them. They've got Christian Yelich in left. They got Lorenzo Cain in center. Hunter Renfroe is going to play right. Tyrone Taylor is actually a pretty useful fourth outfielder. But Yelich is not Yelich anymore. Maybe this is the year he bounces back, but his offense has been really in decline for 2 years. He's also had back issues. Lorenzo Cain's one of my favorite players to watch. I respect him greatly. But Lorenzo Cain is up there in years now, and anybody who follows the Central knows that he's really spent a lot of time on the IL. Not because he isn't tough. He's plenty tough. In fact, I think he gets himself in trouble by running into walls and things. Hunter Renfroe had a really good year in Boston. He's kind of up and down, but he's got real power. But look, they need to have someone who can play center field, who can be part of that. They just have to have someone because they can't rely on Lo Cain, who is wonderful as a teammate and a leader that he is. They just can't rely on him to be out there in center field for, I wouldn't think, for a lot of games. I mean, maybe like a shared type of thing. He just gets hurt too much. His body's breaking down.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. But I have faith that the Brewers will go out and find somebody to fill that spot because that's what they do, right? I mean, they're not afraid to go, we need something, let's go find it. That'll be an interesting watch with them.
And they had Avisal Garcia who signed with the Braves, so that offsets the gain of Renfroe to an extent. But I think big Renfroe in that ballpark is going to be scary.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I was, I'll be honest with you, I was kind of going through that this weekend because I also saw a story, and I'll believe it when I see it. But there was a story that Christian Yelich says he's feeling better. And I go, uh-oh, if Christian Yelich is feeling better and he can start to return to his former self, you throw in Renfroe, I'd be a little scared if I'm the Cardinals again. Because Yelich hasn't been close to himself in, 2.5 years? If he gets back to that, Cardinals may have to, if they want to compete for a division, that's an if, they're going to have to do a little bit more work on that roster because Yelich can be a difference-making guy.
An update in a little less than an hour ago, our friend Katie Wu from The Athletic spoke with Alex Reyes. And if you had missed the update on that, Alex Reyes, they're not sure when his starting point is, and he's undergoing a shoulder exam, and they're going to take their time with this. So he's sort of up in the air right now. And again, there's anybody who's concerned about that is on solid ground being concerned because we've just been through this, not only with Alex Reyes, but other Cardinals pitchers a lot. But anyway, Alex Reyes told our friend Katie Wu that he's not too concerned with his shoulder. He mentioned that he was working through residual soreness from last season in what was his first full season. Injuries have plagued the right-hander throughout his career, but he said, Alex Reyes told Katie Wu, he's not as worried as the prior times. And that's good to hear, and I hope that he's right. You know, I hope that he does really feel he feels better than at times that he has been through things like this. He's not as concerned. So, I mean, I hope that that's well-founded, right?
Oh, absolutely. And if you're him, and I respect all the reporting, is at some point there you go, with me, there's always been something. This is not something I'm too concerned about, you know, because like you said, he's been through something every year, and it's been something different all the time, it feels like. So we'll see. We'll see. Give him some more time. If he's throwing within a week, then I won't be as concerned. But if he's not, we're back on the Miles Michaelis plan.
Manager Ali Marmol said that Yadier Molina did not report today. That's from earlier today. Personal reasons. Not sure when he will report. Mozeliak said that he had been in touch with Yadi, and he's hoping Yadi will arrive sometime in the next few days. I hope everything's okay. Got an extended family, and, you know, he's always there for his family, so I hope he's okay. So anyway, I don't know what the situation will be as far as whether the Cardinals are going to be looking for more pitching, whether any concerns. Listen, I don't think that any concern they have over Reyes now will lead to any kind of imminent action because they don't seem concerned. And if they're not concerned, you know what that means. They're not going to rush out and do something. So they'll wait. Look, there's going to be some relievers out there, some swingman type pitchers out there. There's still a lot of them, so they can still make their move. But I hope they punch it up a bit.
I still need a veteran bat, Bernie. Some type of veteran bat on that bench. It could be a corner guy. You know, Colin Moran has been mentioned a couple of times. I cringe a little bit when I read news over the weekend of, well, the Cardinals might be interested in Albert Pujols. I just don't know if that's a right fit, but there's a lot of noise about that this weekend, Bernie.
You know, and he's lost weight. He looks pretty good. And Will Leach and I talked about that, by the way, on Seeing Red, the new one, the first after the lockout. And you can find that, of course, 590thefan.com, or I know it's available on iTunes as well. So wherever you get your podcast, but you can go to our site and get it, 590thefan.com or the 590 The Fan app. The problem, if there is a problem, and, you know, we can revisit this after we talk some college basketball here in a few minutes. The problems with, and I wrote about this a few weeks ago because it's a tempting thought, and Albert Pujols is terrific against left-handed pitching. I mean, he slugged over 600 against left-handed pitching last season between the Angels and the Dodgers. But the problem is he's not going to play first base much because Goldie plays there a lot. And, yeah, I know that they can put Goldie at designated hitter at times. I get all that. But Albert Pujols cannot hit right-handed pitching. He just simply can't. And the numbers have borne that out for quite a few years now. This is an irreversible thing. He just can't hit them anymore. He can still hit lefties. The problem, though, Jim, as I noted as recently as last week, over the last 3 seasons, the Cardinals have taken fewer the fewest at bats in the majors against left-handed pitching. They've been taking about 70, really about 80% of their plate appearances have come against right-handed pitchers. So with Albert Pujols, you're talking about the occasional spot start at first, presumably against left-handed pitching. You're talking about a DH role, but only against left-handed pitching. And he's there as a pinch hitter, but only against left-handed pitching. So there really wouldn't be, there would be work for him, don't get me wrong. I mean, because he'd still have 150, 180, something like that, maybe plate appearances against left-handed pitching. That's just a rough estimate. Maybe it's even maybe just 150, something like that. And I think he could do well against them because he always has, even now in this late stage of his career. But do you really want to block the path of a guy that they have said and they have made clear they're very excited about, and that's Juan Yepez? And do you want to block the path of Nolan Gorman? Not that he's a factor against left-handed pitching, because he's not. It depends what they are. And the Pujols would be very popular. It would be a lot of fun. It would be totally cool. From a fan standpoint, it would be just awesome to see him in a Cardinal uniform again, especially with Molina and Wainwright. But if we're talking about it on practical terms, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. And we also don't know what he's asking for. And we also don't know if he would be willing to accept that role. He did accept it with the Dodgers, but the circumstances were different. There were a lot of injuries on that team, and he knew that he would get plenty of at-bats, and that turned out to be the case. So I don't know, man. I know that the push to that would be from fans who disagreed, say, well, hold on now. Juan Yepez can wait. But besides, we don't know how good he is. We've heard them hype guys, and maybe he'll become a good hitter. But you can't, assume he'll be a good hitter in the majors right away. And fair point. I get that. Fair point. Other people would say Albert Pujols would be great in the clubhouse. Imagine him there to be a touchstone for young hitters who will come to him for advice and wisdom and how they handle slumps and things like that. That's a good point, too. I mean, you can make a case, but I don't know that it's I just don't know that pragmatically it makes a lot of sense.
And that's why I said I cringed, just because intangibles, I get all that. Performance on the field, I don't see enough to go, yeah, he's a good fit. I just don't see that part. Other than, he'll hit some lefties, but you're not going to face lefties a whole lot.
Not a lot.
It's
not a lot.
So
that's for sure. So anyway, let's see. I mean, when I say I have mixed emotions about it, you know what it is? It comes down to this. There's the fan in me who appreciates the drama of something like Albert Pujols' farewell in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's awesome. If you're a fan of this team, that's something you're like, you know what? Gosh, would that be fun? Gosh, would that be something? So that's the one side of it. The other side is just on pure baseball terms, pragmatic terms, logical terms. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
I'm right there with you. That's why we'll see. We'll see.